This week's theme is going to be one of those where we're just going to want to file it under the easier said than done heading. So the theme of this week is letting go of tomorrow. So you see what I'm talking about. We've all been there, sitting there, driving in our car, or maybe we're just, sitting at home and we start fixating on what's going to be happening tomorrow. What do I have to do? What's going to happen? If you're like me, a lot of your anxiety is rooted in our inability to, we'll say, control what's going to happen in the next thing. I don't know if it's always a control thing, but we just get ourselves caught in that cycle where we just sit there and we just like, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Jesus actually is instructing us to do just the opposite. So welcome to Hell. This is week 6. Thank you for joining us. If it's your first time, welcome. What we're doing today is we're going to focus on the theme of week 6. We're going to introduce some of the scriptures that we're going to be talking about later on in the week. And then we're going to actually talk about our daily activity that we're going to be doing for this week. But like I was saying prior is that Jesus actually specifically tells us not to worry. In our anchor scripture for this week, the scripture where I think the other scriptures in our theme and our activity really circulate around is a reading from Matthew. It's chapter 6, verse 34. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to read it to you. Okay. So Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day. I mean, that's amazing advice. I mean, let's be honest here. Jesus typically doesn't give bad advice. Most of the advice that he's given us is pretty amazing. We just need to follow it, right? But it reminds me of something I like to say. I've said it to other people, and it's quasi-hypocritical of myself because I don't always follow it. But it's, do not let the worry for tomorrow steal today's joy. And then that can happen, right? When we're focused on what we need to do tomorrow, what may happen tomorrow, we're not focused on what's going on in our lives today. We're not focused on what we need to do today, or even what great, amazing things that are occurring in our day today. We start focusing on tomorrow. We miss all the stuff that's going around us today. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that, right? We want to make sure, and that's what a lot of the scriptures this week are going to be really focused on. They're going to be grounding us, and they're going to be pointing us back to that focus on the day. Like Jesus says here in Matthew, let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day. We don't have to worry about today. Let's not, fixate on what's going to happen in, tomorrow. One of those other scriptures that we're going to read this week, as a matter of fact, it's going to be in Monday's Lectio Divina episode, is Psalm 118, verse 24. I'm going to go back and read it here today. I really think it's going to be one that's pretty familiar to all you guys. It's definitely one where, we've heard it 1,000 times. As a matter of fact, I see it and I really just kind of want to sing it. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Again, it's amazing advice that the Lord has given us. And he's not asking us to just live a naive life and realize that there's not going to be anything going on in our lives, that there's not going to be tasks that we need to be focused on. I don't think that's the message that we're trying to get across this week. But what we're really trying to focus on is living in the moment to some extent. Again, not being naive of the world that's around you and the fact that, you may have to, pick the kids up at the ball game tomorrow, or, you have a conference that you have to go to for work in a couple of days. It's more of that hyperfixation for tomorrow. It's more of not being able to appreciate the moment that you're in because your mind is going down this path of unhealthy worry, right? I hope you're catching what I'm trying to talk about here, right? Because I don't think the Lord is telling us to have this kind of ignorance is bliss mentality where we don't have a responsible focus on the future, and that we don't have this naive fixation on living in the moment, if that makes sense, right? It's a balance of appreciating what we have right now, the moments that we're experiencing today and being present in those moments versus being there physically, but allowing our minds to shift into the future and into an area perhaps where we can't actually have any control over that. And a lot of the readings are asking us to put that burden, we'll call it, of worrying about the future, put that burden on God's shoulders. That's for him to take care of for us. So the readings that we're going to read again this week are all going to be focused on that. We're going to talk about, we touched on Monday's reading, which is Psalm 118, verse 24. A reading from the book of James, which is James chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. That'll be our Wednesday Lectio Divina episode. And then we're going to go back to Exodus. We've read a few readings from Exodus already. This is going to be Exodus chapter 16, verses 4 through 5. So those are our 3 Lectio Divina episodes that we'll have this week for week 6. And our weekly practice, our daily practice that we're going to do, again, very easy, non-judgmental, very prayerful, focused. What we want to do is we just want to take a moment. We want to pray out loud. We're going to say, Lord, please help me to be here in today with you. And then name just a gift. Just name a gift that the Lord's provided you in that day and just thank him for it. There is just something beautiful in these prayers when we start with praise and thanksgiving and we finish off with praise and thanksgiving. So I think that it's a good practice to get into. That's just a little bit of advice from me today, is to just, when you're into moments of prayer, you can start and finish with gratitude and thanksgiving. Those are just super powerful. And so as we close out today, first and foremost, thank you so much for being part of this. If there's anything that you're thinking about, anything that's kind of weighing on you, things that maybe you're carrying, worries that you have, feel free to go and put them in the comments. I've mentioned this before, and I really appreciate folks taking the time to comment, because I think one of the opportunities that we have here is to just build this beautiful community of folks, reminding everybody that, no matter what you're going through in life, no matter what worry you have, where your anxieties are taking you, you're not alone. And there are people there that want to be with you and that want to pray for you. So if you can do that, go ahead and please join us on Monday, where we go into Psalm 118, verse 24. Thank you so very much, and God bless.